G798. G798, G0DUB, over. G0DUB, G798, yeah, good afternoon. DUB, yes Graham, I doubled earlier, you should be getting video from 'UK Weekly Activity Net. This net meets each Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock in the afternoon local time and is open to all amateur radio operators interested in emergency communications. The primary purpose of the net is to provide the opportunity for members to test equipment, exchange traffic, news, opinions and information. Additional information and announcements are available on the RAYNET-UK website, which can be found at www.raynet-uk.net. This is a directed net, which means all calls to be made to the net control station unless you are instructed otherwise, and all RAYNET-UK operators are invited and encouraged to check into the net. When you do check in, please announce your call sign slowly and phonetically, followed by your name and whether or not you wish to leave immediately. If you do, then please just call in and out. Otherwise, if you want to leave after subsequent turns, then please make it clear you want to check out at that time. After I've heard a few check-ins, I'll pause and repeat who I've heard. If you've not been acknowledged, then please do try again, and I will call for strays at the end of the UK stations to get anybody who's missed their turn. So I'll now begin taking check-ins to the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net, as usual in call sign number order. So any stations with a figure 8 and their call wishing to check into the net, please call now. This is G4 NRC.
Golf 8, Echo Yankee, G-A-E-E-Y. Name is Mike.
G4 NRC's got Mike, Golf 8 Echo Yankee. Any other 8s, please, for G4 NRC? G4 NRC, no more 8s, so we'll go for 7s. Stations figure 7, their call sign. Please call now over. Golf 7, November Echo Hotel, Graham. Mike 7, Alpha Victor Oscar. Dave, good afternoon. Good. NRC's got Graham, Mike's Golf 7 November Echo Hotel, and Dave, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Good afternoon, chaps. Any other 7s, please? G4 NRC over. For NRC, no more 7s, so we'll go for 6s. Stations figure 6, and their call sign, please. G4 NRC over. Yeah, G4 NRC, Golf 6 November Lima X-ray. I saw your call sign pop up on screen, but got no audio. Can you just try again, please, George? Over. Golf 6 November Lima X-ray, G4 NRC. No, still no audio, George. We've got you on the list. I'll call you in later on. We'll see how things progress. You are showing on the RAYNET-UK dashboard, not on Brandmeister, and I can see you are coming into a personal hotspot. So we'll get to diagnosis momentarily. Any other 6s, please? G4 NRC over. For NRC, no more 6s, we'll go for 5, stations figure 5 and their call sign, please. G4 NRC over. For NRC, nothing heard from the 5s, we'll go down to 4s, stations figure 4 and their call sign, please. G4 NRC over. G4 NRC, G4 KUJ, travelling Watford. G4NRC has got G4KUJ. Good afternoon, Trevor. Also moving away into the log here. Any other fours, please? G4NRC, over. G4NRC, nothing heard from any more fours. Stations figure 3 in their call sign, please. G4NRC, over.
Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, Ian.
Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray, good afternoon, Ian. And I think my last transmission was slightly mangled going out as for Brandmeister, so we'll try again. Stations figure 3 in their call signs, please call now. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, nothing heard, so we'll go for the 2s. Stations figure 2 in their call sign, including intermediates. Please call now. This is G4NRC, over. G4. Try again without doubling. G4NRC, nothing heard from the 2s, so we'll go for stations with figure 1 in their call sign, please. G4NRC, over. G4NRC, second call, 3 stations, figure 1 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4NRC, over. G4NRC is going to be a quick net at this rate. Let's go for zeros, starting with Golf 0, stations of any regional secondary identifier, please. This is G4NRC.
Golf Whiskey 0, Juliet Lima X-Ray Portable. Andy, no traffic, so in and out. Thanks, Greg. Good afternoon.
G4NRC, Andy, Golf Whiskey 0, Juliet Lima X-Ray Portable for the second time today, Andy, after the HF test earlier, so thanks, acknowledge the in and out. Any other Golf 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please? G4NRC, over. G4NRC, nothing heard, so we'll go for Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please. G4NRC, over.
Mike 0, Tango Golf Charlie, David E7, over.
Mike 0, Indian Tango Mike, Andy in Cornwall with Mike 0, Whiskey X-Ray Golf Shirley, also in Cornwall. Good afternoon, Greg. In and out, please. Thank you.
G4NRC, I thought I'd just get the Mike 0s and get the rush out of the way. So Mike 0, Tango Golf Charlie, good afternoon again, David, after the HF earlier. Better copy on this one. Mike 0, India Tango, Mike Andy, along with Shirley, Mike 0, Whiskey X-Ray Golf, I thought. Me and the log are having a disagreement. Copied Andy and Shirley in and out. Any other Mike Zero stations, please, and any regional secondary identifier. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, nothing heard. So have we got any strays for the UK? Any UK stations who have not managed to make it in for their turn wish to call now? Please do so. Any UK stations for G4 and RC, go ahead, over.
Golf 6 November Lima X-ray. George at this end, over.
November Lima X-ray, G4 and RC. Good afternoon, George. You are turn number 4, and your audio is now fixed. We can hear you perfectly now. Thanks for that. Okay, no other UK strays heard, so let's go for the international liaison stations, normally from Nordsamband in Norway or Arran in Ireland. Please go ahead. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, second call, any international liaison stations, call in now, please. G4 and RC, over. For an RC, nothing heard. Okay. Yeah, stand by, make sure I didn't double. Somebody just popped up on Brandmeister. Any other UK stray station waiting to call in for the RAYNET-UK activity periods? G4 and RC, over. And RC, no, nothing heard. It was a Golf 6 station. Didn't make it through the bridge to the RAYNET-UK server. Okay, church notices are such as they are. That is live streamed again by Graham, G7NEH, to YouTube today. Live stream and recording is available by searching Golf 7 November Echo Hotel on youtube.com. Last week's net still got in the 20s for views. What slightly beat Graham was that the very first net he streamed leapt up from 20 or 30 views up to 50 something. So as people are finding the live stream, they seem to be going back a few weeks. So maybe a little bit of learning there about taking them down possibly after they've been gone stale. We'll think about it, and are still looking for comments via the comments box on YouTube, or if you're live on YouTube today, type things into the chat box and let us know if this is worth it for carrying on with as an initiative. Today in the RAYNET world, Grampian and Forest Heath groups have been active today, slightly down on what I expected for a summer weekend, slightly busier weekend next weekend with a number of groups out doing marathons, half marathons, gravel challenges and field days, etc. So slightly more RAYNET activity next weekend. And maybe the lower numbers we have this weekend is just down to it being slightly better weather than usual. The weather forecast for the UK is for temperatures to rise this coming week, but not to exceed not to get to record-breaking levels. However, even parts of Scotland will see higher than average temperatures. If you are out on an event, please do remember to take suitable water and shade and everything with you, and stay safe in the sun. And a couple of open questions from an American government-backed communications body this morning. America has suffered flooding in the south of their country and in quite widespread areas, but there's been no report of any amateur radio activity until this morning, where I read that there's reports that amateurs in the area are self-deploying and calling in unsolicited reports to emergency operations centres. This is giving amateur radio a bad reputation. What do we actually think? If there's a flood, isn't there some kind of expectation that a net should have been stood up, or at least tell people what the requirements were? And from the same source, another leading question, and that's, does Morse code have any relevance in amateur radio emergency communications? So they're feeling a little bit confrontational in American chat groups this morning. With that, we'll work down the list we've got and go to the person most experienced in flood exercises in the UK. We'll go to Mike, Golf 8, Echo Yankee. Over to you, Mike. G4NRC, over.
G4NRC from G8EY. Well, I'm gaining experience day by day with all these NRF and LRF meetings I keep getting called to. I reckon in the last and next month I will have more meetings than I've ever had since I started with the NRF. But there you go. Yeah, flood emergencies. Well, not in this region there won't be, other than an exercise. 25 degrees centigrade today, 1,024 millibars are rising. Humidity is down to 31%. Cloud cover is 3%, dropping to 1% later on in the afternoon. Maximum temperature 30 degrees centigrade Friday. At the moment we've got a wind of 6 miles an hour from 302 degrees. We have had the odd field fire since the really scorchio. So there are still risks out there. Everything is still very dry. And when George first called in on the RAYNET server, he not only didn't come up with his voice, but I didn't see a call sign either. There was nothing there. From G8EY. Oh, and yes, perhaps if the Americans had the equivalent of NRFs, then amateurs could put reports into there instead of the emergency services. I mean, if anything cropped up here, I would go to the NRF on their WhatsApp group rather than going 999, because that's not a good way of doing it. From G8EY.
Echo Yankee, Chief, for NRC returning. Okay, all good stuff. And copy down the weather report. And yeah, more meetings over the last month than the preceding whole lifetime. It does feel like that. You certainly get a feel for what's on their radar when you see what's on the exercise calendars and so on. Noted about the field fires, and yes, in some areas I'm equally surprised we haven't had some of the moorlands areas go into standby to do fire watch as has been done in the past. As far as American and local resilience forums, not a chance. That's not the way they work. But it was, I think, it seems strange for me their interpretation of weather, and we might have the same for Skywarn, for hurricane force winds, etc. Then it's almost encouraged to call in with real live reports from what's going on in your area. It seems to be tackled rather differently just because it was a flood and happened a little bit slower. Okay, good observations. Next to Graham, Golf 7 of Echo Hotel, G4NRC, over. G4NRC, G798, returning. Yeah, okay, Greg. Good afternoon all, to all on the net. Just some stats for you. Last week's net, a total of 31 views in total. This week's we have 4 live viewers, and a total of 5 views in total. Those that are looking at the stream will notice I've got the YouTube chat box on the screen as well. Please use that. So yeah, that's about it for me. All going well. G0DUB. Sorry, G4NRC, G78. Okay, nothing heard from Graham. We'll mark him such and come back on the next turn. Next to Dave, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar, G4NRC. Over.
G4NLC, 7ABL. Good afternoon again, Greg. Good afternoon, everyone. Graham was coming through on the YouTube. Although I have got the sound turned down, so we haven't got a delay. Graham was definitely there and putting out some figures. As you say, looking at the 5-star dashboard, there was quite a good loss for a time off his last over, Greg. Also, there was somebody else coming in, a zero station. I don't think it was yourself. I didn't quite get it all. It was quite a bit broken. I shall answer your questions you put through on the second time around, if that's all right, Greg. 0.7, Alpha Victor Oscar.
Seven Alpha Victor Oscar, Chief for NRC returning. Okay, yeah, I'm distracting myself because aside from trying to keep my face for radio pointing at the screen, I'm looking at two dashboards and hearing myself coming back on Brandmeister at very low level, but a few seconds later. So I can hear if the bridge is hiccuping, but I didn't see PM0 station on either side of the bridge. I will do another call for strays after we complete the list we've got, which will be in 1, 2, 3, 4 turns time. Okay, let's get to George and find out how his audio problems got fixed. Golf 6, November Lima X-ray, G4 and RC, over.
G6NX, that's a G4 right. Yeah, it was a finger trouble at my end. I've been struggling with the complexities of getting an open spot to correct correctly, and forgotten all of the settings, particularly when trying to crossman. And what it turned out was I had this set as a private call and not a group call. So that would explain that. Using a Yaesu FT5D coming in through an open spot 1, which would also answer an earlier question. North Norfolk has had 1 or 2 wildfires going around. Whilst I'm sure they were serious, they didn't seem to cause an awful lot of damage other than to the fields themselves. So things are fairly quiet North Norfolk-wise. Weather today is quite nice, still warm in the direct sunshine, but there is something of a northerly breeze coming in. Nothing too much trouble, but it is just keeping a lid on the temperatures. Around about 24, 25 degrees here. In Hitling, in North Norfolk, near to Stalham, for those who know the area. Back over to you, G4NRC, this is G6LX.
6, November Lima X-ray, G4 and RC returning. Okay, thanks, George. Yes, I've just put 2 and 2 together because you posted on the Facebook group, I think, for your open spot query. Must have a look at that. I'll get guys to have a look at that and see if there's anything we need to improve on the DMR server help pages to help people through that setup issue. Noted on the occasional fires, field fires, not quite what I typed, but yeah, it's going to be a thing for a while, and as hose pipe bans roll out a little bit further, it is recognised that the land is dry. Okay, now to Trevor, G4KUJ, and I did highlight to TGC earlier of your Quebec Oscar 100 woes. G4KUJ, G4 and RC, over.
Right, second go. We've got in. G4 and RC, G4KUJ. Yeah, okay, great. Good afternoon to you and everybody else. And thanks for bringing David up to speed on my LMV issue. Must have, hopefully during the coming week, I'll have some time to put the spare in and see if that cures the problem. Not really done anything on the digital front. Well, not on DMR anyway. I sort of spent some time this week
seeing which of the WinLink RMS nodes in Europe give me the best sort of performance on mainly 40 meters. And I've come to the conclusion that HB9AK on 7051.5 is the most reliable. I've found that any time between, when I've been testing between 0900 and 2400, I can usually get in with no problem whatsoever. And certainly in the current propagation and sunspot cycle, that seems to be the optimum for me. Nothing further. Thank you, Greg. G4NRC, G4K UK.
G4NRC returning. Okay, Trevor, that was interesting. Your audio was actually leading on Brandmeister and being slow through the RAYNET-UK server. Not the way around I expected at all. Just going to correct the typo in the log. We've been trying RINLink nodes, November rather than modes. Yeah, HB9AK is a bit of a superstation for providing coverage, but it is, however, how it causes so much distress to the green radio community down on 80 metres. They're a good signal down there as well, and those crystal controlled green radios don't like having a packed station fire up on top of them. So another bit of the joy of band planning and who's there first. But yeah, okay, good news if QO100 gets fixed this week. However, if the weather is going to be warmer than expected, you might want to hold off for a few days. Let it cool off before killing a second LNB. Okay, next to Ian, Golf 3, Zulu Hotel X-Ray, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, G3ZHX, and on my video you're still talking. Oh, you stopped. Yes, I don't fully understand what you were saying about self-deploying amateurs in the States contacting the emergency services. Are they calling in on amateur frequencies, in which case the question resolves itself? Or are they calling in on the phone, in which case anybody could do that? I expect you'll respond, and I may have another say on the next time round. And as far as Morse is concerned, I must admit I struggle with Morse. I got through my 12 words a minute, as you can see, but that's as far as I ever got, and it suffered badly after that. I can just about decode a repeater, and that's it. So I'm afraid with me it's probably a dead loss. So I'll throw it back to you now from G3ZHX.
G3ZHX, G4NRC returning. Yeah, interesting on the video lag and everything else. This is why the BBC and others suffered so much with COVID, trying to do live links when you have a very variable set of delays between different services going forward. So what we had wanted to do at one point, and still might, is actually show you my dashboards, and you could see the finger going down on the push to talk and see the dashboards respond and hear the voice from here as well, so that it would make it clearer what the satellite delay, for want of a phrase, is going through the different networks. And if we actually had a spotter on Pheonix as well, if that bridge is up, then you'd see an even longer delay. But, okay, we did concern ourselves, Graham and I, whether or not we took audio from the microphone on the webcam, which would then lead to a disconnect, or whether the audio should come off the radio. Graham's picking it off the radio today. Clarification on the US stuff. I only raise what I read, and it is not very clear, Ian, to be fair. So we are hearing reports that there are some amateur radio operators self-deploying and calling in unsolicited reports into the state EOCs, Emergency Operations Centres, that are affected by the flooding down south. I'm going to carry on with the quote. Needless to say, this is the exact kind of I'm smarter than you are attitude that gives amateurs a bad reputation. It's a strange one because if they are literally in the water and are calling for help, and there's an amateur station in the corner of the operations centre which is turned on, they turn everything on and people are calling, I'm not sure why that's smarter than you are. It's providing real-life ground information of what's going on. But it's not clear if they're not just phoning it in, Ian. I'll give you that one. And yet everybody has difficulty with some modes. CW doesn't work for some people, others can't do some of the sound card modes and so on. But again, in the theme they seem to be having this morning, it was if it's not their pet mode, then it can't possibly have a place going forward. The CW vote on that same group is still fairly finely balanced between the yes and no camp. So I thought I'd throw it on to our net today. Okay, next with a readability 5 signal, which is far better than we had earlier on HF. David, Mike 0, Tango Golf Charlie, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC from M0TGC, that's certainly true, Greg. It was pretty awful earlier on this afternoon. But in fact, of the people on the HF net, it was only you and I that couldn't talk to each other directly. But I did pick up the question that you asked was, what is my QO100 system working? And the answer is affirmative. I checked it a few days after the very hot period and then a couple of times since, and it seems to be spot on. I think probably I've not experienced down in East Devon quite the heat that Trevor G4KUJ was having up in Watford. We only got up to about 32, 33 degrees. And I think probably my rig is therefore not susceptible to heat at that level. Anyway, it's working fine and the frequencies are dead on. And of course the propagation is 100% as it always is on QO100. So everything's fine. Nothing further to add, I don't think. I'll put in the report on the HF net and try and explain what I was doing and why it didn't work, if I can work it out by then. But anyway, thanks for running the net. Mike 0 Tango Golf Charlie, back to you.
Zero Tango Golf Charlie, G for NRC returning. Okay, right. That was your signals was faded off at the latter end of the net. It was really variable. Stations were going from readability 1 to readability 5 in the space of a few minutes. So thanks for the confirmation. I just didn't get enough on HF to gather that yours was still happy. And when we get round to Trevor, something I have to 3D print up, although I know you don't like the antenna feed I'm proposing, is that somebody's come up with a 3D printed shell to go over the end of the POTY antenna feed to keep it a little bit weatherproof and maybe some sun off it. So I'll be doing that. I'm not sure if that's a thing to consider, given the LNV might be a bit vulnerable to heat at the focus of the satellite dish itself. Right, we'll take a break in case there was up another station calling in from the other side of the bridge. So is there anybody waiting to join the RAYNET-UK activity period on 23531 or 502331? Please call now. This is G4NRC, over.
30 Delta Zulu Romeo.
Hello, Delta Zulu Romeo. Good afternoon. You made it in. Do you want to go ahead? G4NRC to Echo 0 Delta Zulu Romeo.
Yeah, good afternoon all, and good afternoon to you, Greg. Yeah, I've not been too clever a reason, so that's why you've not heard of me. I have been listening, but just not participating. And with that, I shall slip back down onto the side, carry on listening.
Echo Zero Delta Zulu Romeo Chief for NRC. Yeah, no problem, Paul. Sorry to say you've not been too well. Yeah, it's the third, fourth, fifth wave of various illnesses have hit us at work as well. So if it's not summer holidays taking people out there getting off with COVID or other ailments, we thought we're out of season. So glad you're on the mend. Nice to hear you. I'll be putting an email out to the zone later on this evening as I'm catching up with backlogs. So you'll see the consequences of that a little later, hopefully. Right, with that, I think that's captured the zero station that was around and was called in earlier, so I'll go back to the top of the list for any finals. Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee Chief for an RC, over.
G for NRC from G8EY. Yes, everything copied so far. Yeah, it'd be interesting to know who posted that comment about self. What do they call them in this country? Oh yes, not impulsive. Yeah, groups that go off on their own and call things in. We've had that in the UK with people basically posting that sort of material because they are anti-RAYNET or the equivalent to start with. I just also would say, well, I'm not sure what the people of New Orleans would say about flooding and information going to the emergency services. Yes. Sorry, my brain stopped. 3D printing for the potty depends on the material, I would think. You know that the focusing lens is basically of a plastic nature, and it's shaped to match the focusing of the LMB. So I don't know what effect putting anything else over the end will have. And depends on what you're printing with. I'm thinking that if you're using PLA, you have to remember that PLA is biodegradable. It's not a long-term plastic to use outside. And obviously you have to choose the right materials. But otherwise, that's a good afternoon from me, and 73s to everybody, and thanks, Greg, for running the net this afternoon. From G8EY.
Fate Echo Echo Yankee Chief for an RC returning. Okay, in reverse order, yeah, I know PLA is biodegradable. It seems to perform better than people thought at one point, but I hadn't thought about it doing an effect on the focus of the dielectric lens of the satellite feed. So we'll have another look at that. I still have an accumulation of bits to try and put together to make a QO100 station of my own. It's at the point that Graham and Dave and I were all talking about it, and it's like, do we just throw all the bits in the middle and make one up between us, or whoever has the time put the bits together? We need to do something about it further north than David and Trevor, and see if we can get a third QO100 station up for the UK, because it is a useful facility while it's available to have almost a third of the planet in cover for international use. And it does wake up the user services if you say we can deploy our own satellite stuff, which is slightly easy to demonstrate when it's a geostationary and saying we've got our own satellites, but only for 3 times or 6 times a day for 10 minutes at a time. The person who posted on that American group was the de facto leader of that emergency communications organization. It's a strange one. This is the American communications organization that is pretty much government sponsored and run. So I do detect a bit of bias there, but yeah, we would probably know it as contingent volunteers was the phrase you were looking for. And we do manage that because we would tell people, come onto a net and we will gather the information, and then at least we've got a network ready to respond, even if it's not wanted by the user services at the moment. Or we'd communicate exactly why we weren't needed, which is what we did through COVID. Does not seem to be managed, and I was very surprised that it doesn't even seem to have made the news in America, let alone making it internationally, that they've had such widespread floods affecting very large areas. Okay, thanks, Mike. Have a good week. Enjoy the meetings inevitably you'll have this week as well. And we will now have another go at Graham and seeing if we can get his voice over DMR as well as over YouTube. G7NEH, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, G7NEH. Hopefully you'll get this. Yeah, good afternoon all on the net and those that didn't know me last time. So the stats for today, we've had 7 views and there are 5 viewers streaming at the moment, I'm going to say streamers. So yeah, last week's was 31 views in total, and the week before was 37, and the first week we did, on the 17th of July, is up to 58 views. So there we go, quite interesting. Those of you looking today will notice the chat box is in the main window. So please comment on you like or dislike that. And that's about it from me. All noted on the QO100 stuff there. Yeah, have to do something at some point. I have ordered some ESP32 camera modules, so they'll be interesting to play with. Yeah, not a lot else to add from this end. I did listen to the 5MegNet 60 Ethernet partly this afternoon. Some very good signals on the best I've heard for a while actually. But I didn't call it because it didn't turn on till late. So there we go. G4 NRC and G7NEH.
NEH, G4NRC returning. Okay. Don't know what happened halfway through that over, Graham. Your audio dropped to about half of what it was at the start, as if you moved the microphone away from yourself or something like that. But yeah, interesting. Thanks for the view statistics. And if I play a kind of statistics game, if 17 people on this net is roughly 1% of the RAYNET membership. The next challenges of those 31 views in total are some of them duplicates, people who are already on the net, and how many of them are outreach, as in outside the DMR fraternity and then outside the network full stop. People who are just coming across and wondering what it is that's going on. So we'll keep the experiment going, as we discussed the other night. And we'll see what Com says tomorrow in the meeting about how we progress it forward. Okay, thanks for doing it, Graham. And we will, at some point, for everybody's warning, get Guy on camera as well, because he's foolishly admitted that he could stream video from his place. So we will try and get somebody else's face on the streams as well. Okay, next to Dave for a final. Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Yeah, all understood so far, Greg. Just to answer to your questions over Morse and its use for emergency communications, it definitely has a place, in my opinion. Although, is Morse, I don't know whether this is another question, is Morse disappearing? I know you don't have to take Morse now to become an amateur, definitely in this country, but it's an easy way of communication. You can make quite a small transmitter and a Morse key and be very, very portable with it. You know, if you go to, although it's only Hollywood and films, the film Independence Day, going back some years ago, Morse code saved the world. As I say, it's only Hollywood, but you know, I think it definitely got a place. I shall will hand it back to you now, Greg. Mike 7, Alpha Victor Oscar.
M7 AVO, G4 and RC. Yeah, definitely a smell there because I thought of Independence Day about the same time. The arguments about it disappearing come and go, not so sure. People are reckoning FT8 as the big mode, and you hardly hear any sideband QSOs going on, but you can see a lot of activity on FT8. I think various contests and appreciation groups, activities, and the QRP community is keeping it alive as a mode, and removal of it as an exam requirement in a lot of countries actually meant more people were interested in it when they weren't being told to do it. So once it stopped being a barrier and something you did if you wanted to do it or wanted to learn, then more people got involved. But yeah, everything has a place in the toolbox for emergency comms, and the side comment that was made on the HFnet earlier was that if conditions are a bit ropey on HF, as we do suffer from time to time, then at least if you drop in a CW call sign, somebody knows you're there, because you will be heard. Even if your voice doesn't get through, the Morse code will at least get a recognition that there is somebody else there, and extra efforts can be made. Okay, thanks for the answers, Dave. Have a good week. And next to George for final Golf 6 November Lima X-Ray G4 and RCO.
From G6 Alex. Yeah, thank you for running the net, Greg. Interesting to hear all of the different chat. I think for my input regarding the Morse question, as a G6, I'm sort of a dyed-in-the-wall, not Morse person. I've never really felt the urge to go along with it. But that doesn't mean I don't regard it well as a mode of communication, per se. It's just something I haven't been involved in. But I think it also poses maybe a wider question, rather than the use of Morse, but are we talking about particularly hand-generated Morse or machine-generated Morse? People who are reasonable typists with a good decoder and only needs a small laptop or tablet or something like that to decode the audio. And the decode programs these days are very, very good, and the type-ahead programs are also very, very good as a method of exchanging messages. Using machine-generated Morse, whilst it might offend purists, there's got to be more efficient than not getting the message through at all. I think that would be my only comment, but just to open up the discussion perhaps a little bit wider. Otherwise, that's all from me. I'll say good evening, good afternoon to everyone. This is G6LX, handing back to G4NRC.
6 NLX, G4 and RC returning. Okay, no, good point, George. There was no discrimination made between manual or automatic generated Morse. Both exactly have their place. Just because you can't use a hand key or a bug or anything else and read it yourself, then you can go for the automatic way of creating and reading it. It works reasonably. But you just ask for repeats, just like you would do if you didn't hear something correctly the first time yourself. Trevor and I, for Mischief, many, many years ago, reading that HF links back in the early days were high-speed Morse, around 100 words per minute, did use FLDigi to whack out 100 word per minute Morse on, I think it was a 5 megs frequency because it was cleanest at the time. And provided we kept it well fed with messages and had a lot of idling characters like VVV or something just for it to train onto, then yes, it was still using the mode, but at ridiculously high speeds and all automatic generated. And with a very tight filter would be very resistant to a lot of interference that might come through. Anyway, thanks for the answer, and I think that's another one for all tools are in the box. Thanks, George. Talk to you soon. Next to Trevor, G4KUJ, G4NRC, over.
Right, made it second time through there. Have to seem to wait quite a long time to everything to kick in. Yeah, okay, just following my thunder about the 100 words a minute was Greg. I was going to mention that we played with that few years ago, which was quite good and very reliable, I seem to remember. On the North side, I'm a bit like Ian. Back in 1980, I just about managed to get to 12 words a minute to get through the test. I think I had 2 QSOs afterwards and decided that it was too difficult, and for me, I just don't have the rhythm for it or whatever, or the ear for it. And as that's, 40 odd years ago, a bit like Ian, I can just about identify call signs on repeaters. Yeah, on the QO100 side, I may well try out the LNB, but with the hot weather, I wouldn't propose to leave it out there. Or maybe if I do, I'll cover it up with a cloth so it can't get the full whack of heat. My LNB has got the helical feed attached to it, which probably didn't do it much good from the temperature point of view. It probably just made sure it got very, very hot, because there was no chance for any heat that's generated inside to get out through the plastic radome at the end. On potty feeds, it's many, many years since I played with radomes, but it should be possible to come up with a radome profile that doesn't interfere with the feed. Obviously, on the potty, the sort of tapered feed is to match everything nicely and get everything focused down onto the LNB. But it will depend on the material for the radomes. When I was playing with that back in the 80s and 90s, radomes were using very expensive material. So apart from that, nothing further. I'll keep logging till the end. Greg, G4NRC, G4KUJ.
G4KUJ, G4NRC. Okay, Trevor, observation that you might have seen typed into the log. Your audio levels are quite high compared to other stations this week, and may have been in weeks previous, so I've just noted it in the log, but you are definitely a turn the volume down to listen station, as far as I'm concerned. You were even loud on the Brandmeister monitor, which is down at quite low levels, just so I can hear something's going on, but you were coming through very loud on Brandmeister. Okay, the radome, well, it's something to think about. First of all, we have to get an active station up north and work on it. So that's where we're at. Okay, thanks. We've just got 2 stations left on the list. So next it's Ian, Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray. G4NRC, over.
G4NRC in the group, B3ZHX. And am I going to come up on the dashboard? Who knows? I shall keep talking. Yes, I'm up. Right, I was wondering if there was any possibility of a dichroic mirror, which would reflect visible light and infrared, but not radio. This is probably going to be tricky to do, because from my experience working with Twin Tech intruder detectors, which have PIR and, sorry, that's passive infrared, and Doppler radar in them at 10 gigs. The lens which we were beaming the radar through would actually affect the performance of the radar, and it's only quite thin polythene, so you may have fun with that. And the other thing that occurred to me, Morse, I believe pilots are trained to send Morse with the PTT, and after I released the PTT on my last transmission, it occurred to me it'd be very difficult to do with DMR, and I'll leave that thought with you. So, afternoon all, and this is G3ZHX going.
G3ZHX, G4NRC returning. Okay, Ian, interesting. I'd not thought of having a material that worked quite as you said, so I'm sure Trevor, coming from a similar kind of background, might have some other thoughts on that. It's definitely something that, as weather changes, we'll have to think more about how we keep the heat out of sensitive kit. I'm just noticing there are some dropouts and hiccups on the Brandmeister side of the bridge. I'm not sure if they're locally inspired or whether it's the RAYNET to Brandmeister part of the bridge. So if I'm looking distracted on screen, it's because I'm trying to look in 3 places at once, and the next thing would be I have to have a nice ergonomic layout of the station here. So I'm not wobbling my head all over the place. I haven't come across pilots being required to send CW with the PTT in any of the training materials I've seen, so we'll have a look at that. But yes, the amazing delays through DMR would make any kind of conspicuity keying, so a blip up to let people know you're there, a bit hard to do at times. And with that, it looks like the Brandmeister side of the bridge is hiccups locally for me. Okay, thanks Ian, look forward to talking to you again soon, and we'll go to the person who finishes the net this week, which is going to be David, Mike 0, Tango Golf Charlie, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC from M0TGC. Nothing further to add, I don't think, Greg. I shall certainly continue to monitor the KO100 situation, and if Trevor's still listening and wants to have a QSO, then we can test out how it's actually sounding, if that's appropriate. But anyway, thanks for running the net again. This is Mike 0 Tango Golf Charlie, going clear.
G4NRC, yeah, getting crazy packet losses going across onto Brandmeister. What that was saying, 66% that time, so something to investigate. But meanwhile, just coming up to the top of the hour, we'll close the net. So thanks everybody for taking time out on this wonderful sunny day today to participate in this afternoon's net. Be careful, have a good week, and until next Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time, I'll close the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net and return the talk groups to being an open net rather than a directed net. So 7-3's all, this is G4NRC now closing and reverting to my normal call sign of Golf 0 Delta Uniform Bravo. Bye bye.